Hey, we're here at Gunners Firearms with Maggie again. And Maggie, this is an interesting conversation we're about to have because we were talking about disgruntled relatives being upset about guns and anti-gun relatives, that sort of thing, causing problems for people that like guns. And it kind of like right away, I thought I have so many relatives that hate guns, and they look at me different. They treat me different.
They do.
Like I've been in conversation, like I remember being in a conversation recently where somebody brought up, something about a shooting somewhere, and they looked at me and they're like, guns sure do help, don't they? Kind of thing. And I'm just like, well, if they had a gun, they wouldn't have been shot. Like crazy people are going to do crazy things. And obviously if you can defend yourselves with firearms, that's the better situation than just to be like, please don't shoot me and get shot. But it's an interesting topic because I think that everybody that likes guns in the world, or let's just stick with America for right now. Everybody that likes guns in America has a relatives that is not cool with that. That they're, for whatever reason, they are not okay with that. And it's just an interesting, and I don't even really know why necessarily we're talking about this other than just kind of how we cope with it. How do you deal with that? Because obviously debating them isn't going to work, or trying to convince them that guns are great isn't going to work. It's just somehow it is causing division in families.
Yeah. It is. So in my personal experience, the fellow that I married, his family was a victim of firearm violence in 1991 at the Luby's cafeteria shooting. And his parents were very young. They were in their 30s, and my husband was very, very, very small. And his parents lost their parents. He lost his grandparents immediately, very unexpectedly, and not from natural causes, obviously. So it did put a very large stigma on firearms, he said, when he was growing up. And I think to this day, some of his siblings have very polarizing and opposing views on firearms as well, and what their purpose and their use should be, and how safe and comfortable they are around them, and the rest of his family too. And some of his family members are of a mindset that the firearm that caused the shooting wasn't to blame. It was the person with the finger on the trigger that is the problem. And if someone else had been there to stop the problem earlier
with a gun,
then, maybe it wouldn't have happened. It's easy to go into a place where it's easy to walk in to a no firearm campus or no firearms allowed area with a gun, and you're the only one with a gun, and you're just shooting fish in a barrel at that point. But if you know that you're going to walk in and everybody else is going to fire back at you, would you think twice on it?
Well, and it's interesting because that's fascinating with the Luby's, because I remember that, and that was before that wasn't normal in America.
No,
that was very unusual. It made the news everywhere. But most people that do that kind of thing are cowards. And I'm not just saying that because how dare they do that? They're cowards. They really are cowards. They do it because they've been bullied and they've never been able to stand up for themselves. Or other scenarios, but generally speaking, they anytime somebody confronts them, they'll immediately stop what they're doing, or they'll kill themselves. It just takes somebody to confront them aggressively, and they immediately back down. And that's kind of what I mean. That's the typical shooter you have in America. Most people would argue that the typical shooter is that guy, that one that's a coward. So I think you're right. Not to get on a tangent, we'll get back to the family thing.
No, that's fine. Like, I mean, it's not like anybody ever gives us a sign on this side of the counter or walks in with a picket sign that says, I am crazy and I intend to do bad things.
And actually, we just talked about it. We made a video on how you vet people. I'll put the link right here.
You be judgmental.
How you be judgmental. But back to the family thing. So is he, I'm just going to inquire because I have issues with my family. And it's kind of ignored. Like, we love each other, we get along.
But you just don't talk about
We just
firearms.
don't talk about it. And it happened with me because when I was raised by hippies who were also just very irresponsible. So I jokingly say raised by hippie wolves. But we weren't allowed to have guns at all. And around middle school, all the neighborhood kids decided to have BB gun wars.
Yeah.
So I went out and bought a BB gun, and at one point, the guy sitting right next to me, his eye got shot out, which is a true story. And we had to go to court. Like, the police came and took our BB guns. He, of course, got rushed off in an ambulance. He's got a fake eye, So after that, we weren't even allowed to, watch movies that had guns in them. They were already against it. And then all of a sudden, their son's going to court at 12, juvenile court over guns.
Over BB guns.
Over BB guns.
Yeah, that doesn't sit well with parents at all.
No. So that was it. So it was just, there was no more of that for sure. And it just has never changed. It just never changes. But they know what I do. Mm-hmm. They know how I feel about it. And we just simply don't talk about it.
That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
That is really, really, really tough. I've had conversations with firearms or about firearms and the topics of them, use and purpose and intent with my relatives, my in-laws as well. And
how do they do with?
I couldn't tell you how they did after. I can only speak to the last 10 years that I've been married. 11 years, sorry. Gosh dang it. Sorry, Irish. It's 11 years. We've been married. And so, it's his family, his immediate family, his parents, himself. I think they were probably far more knowledgeable and okay with firearms than I was when I first met him and his family. I was very, very much, most people don't believe this, but there was a point in time where you could set a gun on a table and I'm like, thank you. I will be exiting the building. I will be 3 blocks away. Call me when all of this is gone and I don't want anything to do with this. I want to be elsewhere. Mm-hmm. I do not want to be involved in these conversations. And now I'm to the point where the more I learn about this, they are far less scary. And it's not the guns that frighten me. It's ourselves. It's human beings.
Human beings are scary.
And here's a terrible, scary thing. It's like none of us are clairvoyant enough to know what the future will bring us. We may be okay and everything is wonderful in our worlds today. But just like this, something can change. In the blink of an eye, in the beat of a heart, something will change and will alter your life and its course forever. And when that change, whatever it is, happens, how will your views change to follow suit? In the blink of an eye, when they lost grandparents and parents and brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles in this family, you lose somebody to gun violence, your opinions change immediately.
I'm sure they will.
Some for the better and some for the worse, but who's to say which is better and which is worse in that one instant? You don't know the outcome. I mean, it's just, it's so tough. And I can't tell you how that works for everybody. I can tell you that with time and with knowledge, with more knowledge and more experience, and hindsight on things, the time is the real frickin' kicker. With time, you can change some minds and change some opinions and change some hearts. At the end of the day, even if you don't see eye to eye on every level and every aspect of firearms or whatever, they're still your relatives. There's still people that you care for and you love, and that they care and love you as well. They might just not love you all the time and everything that you do, but you know, it's just...
Yeah, that's tough, because even politically, families are, and you know, obviously don't want to get
Very
into that,
much
but it's
so.
just like, even if anybody in my family likes a politician, like I have a rule, I'm not going to talk about it. Like, you're welcome to just say where, you know, I'm not going to tell anybody else not to talk, but I will not engage, I will not respond, I will not care. I will not, like, I'm just not, you know, not going to do it. And as a few minutes go by, I'm probably going to get up and walk out. Like, it's just like, feel free to keep talking, just you're talking to the wrong person. And I think sometimes families are just better off that way. You know, I remember in middle school, I had a social studies teacher who, it was right around the election. I think it was, I can't remember who was running back then. It was a long time ago. But anyhow, it was Ronald Reagan. But somebody asked him, who are you going to vote for? And he said that he never tells anybody. He said his own wife doesn't even know who he's going to vote for. And I always respected that, and I thought about that. Anytime somebody tells me who they're going to vote for, or tells me why I should vote for this person, I think, you sure just throwing up your thoughts, aren't you? You know, because nothing's going to change anybody's mind. Well, all you're going to do is cause more division. And
maybe not. Maybe you might be that one person that gets through to somebody, but you don't know until you put it out there. So I understand.
I definitely will never try to convince anybody of anything electoral wise. I know we're preaching to the choir here, you know, but in the end, how do you guys, I guess maybe we could try to answer the question, so how do you manage your family under these circumstances? Like, if you're somebody that's pro Second Amendment, you love guns, do you just say we're not talking about it?
You don't have to have any conversation that you don't want to have. And if it ever gets to a point where you're having a conversation with someone and you don't think that you're being heard when you're coming across, or you don't think, you know, that you're hearing them correctly in the points that they are trying to make, you can say, hey, can we just pause this for a little while? I need some time to digest this maybe, and we will definitely revisit this at another time. We'll come back to this topic because I want to understand this a little more from somebody else's perspective. I will never be upset to try and understand something from somebody else's perspective. But I mean, some people are a little more rational in their arguments than others. I know some families like to raise their voice, and as the person who can yell the loudest and that gets all the talking points. I really do. I really love my in-laws are really, I kind of won the lottery on in-laws. I got some really, really, really cool ones. And I think my husband would say the same thing he better say the same thing about my parents. I know he does, though. He thinks they're absolutely awesome. But, you know, it's hard to have conversations where someone doesn't see your same point of view, and you really want them to know where you're coming from and see it, and you just can't get it to meet up, and then you have that fight or that argument, and you go separate ways, and the longer you go without speaking to each other, the harder it is to reconnect. And you may have connected on other points that were absolutely awesome. Let's say you get along fabulously on every other topic there is out there, but that one polarizing topic you just can't see eye to eye on. If you can, just avoid the topic and say, hey, if you ever have questions about this, or there's ever something you want to know, or you have questions, please ask me. I would like to try and answer them for you. Or if I have questions about your point of view, would you be okay if I asked you, you know, my questions regarding your point of view, not to get upset. Some people are far more rational and okay with it than others. Some people will never be okay with it, but that's just life.
That's good advice.
You just gotta roll with it.
If you were to give just one piece of advice, somebody said, hey, I'm really struggling. I love guns. My in-laws or my whatever relatives hate them. My mom, my dad, my brothers, my whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your advice on it? Would it just be kind of try to...
I would say that is just not an area of your life and your interests that coincide with their lives and their interests. You can have friendships and you can have relatives that you hang out with and appreciate for other reasons, because their expertise may be stone carving, masonry, maybe they are the most amazing carpenter you've ever met, and they can do masterful things with some tools. So, that is somebody you still want in your life for all their knowledge and information, but you just don't see eye to eye on the firearms. You don't have to have those conversations about firearms, and if they are not comfortable with it, that's fine. There are other things you guys can speak on and topics that you can probably get along with, and just know that, just like if you have an interest in one of their areas of expertise, they should be able to come to you if they ever have questions in your areas of expertise as well. Or you should be ready, if you're not that knowledgeable, say, well, maybe I'm not the best person to talk to on this topic, but I do know places where you can go that will have the answers for you on firearms. You can recommend them to your favorite gun store, your favorite local gun store or gun counter, where you feel that you receive good information, and maybe you could send them there and say, hey, this helped me.
My anti-gun relatives, they're not buying guns.
No, you say
they're
that.
Not going to buy guns.
You say that. From this side of the counter, I can tell you that I have anti-firearm people that walk through the door on a daily.
Oh, I do believe that. I'm just telling you, my relatives, I already could tell you, it's not going to happen. But
it might surprise them to find out how many, it always gets to me, the people that are anti-firearm, and when they just kind of walk to the little edge of the pond just to stick their toes in to see what it's like, how warm and welcoming they find the rest of the community. And it's like, okay, this is not what I thought it was going to be. This is not what I'm told that it is on the news. It's not what I'm seeing on the media. These are actually normal human beings coexisting with everyone else.